Welcome to Omnis Technologies. My name's Ryan. I'm here with our IT technician, Zach Ball, and today we're going to cover some CTERA information. So, Zach, why don't you give a brief overview of CTERA and what your background is with it?
The CTERA unit is a local NAS unit that we've been using for several years here at Omnis Technologies. We generally use the C200 because that kind of fits our size of small to medium-sized businesses that we deal with. It is a actual network physical, it's a physical device that we install on your network. And this is one of those things I wish I would have known about years ago because it completely just takes the human factor out of backups. So back in the day, you used to have to do physical backups to an external drive and then pay for a separate service to do cloud backups. The CTERA unit does both of those. So that's what we call a hybrid unit. So if we actually have some portions where we just do local for people and then just maybe do cloud. So we're going to be digging into this device, a wonderful device. I've been familiar with it for about 2 years now. We've implemented them here for probably the last 5. And they really have saved. I mean, unfortunately, we've had people get hit with ransomware, some other types of viruses, but it has saved every one of those clients' data from getting, obviously permanently lost. So a great device. We'll dig into it more here.
Yep, highly recommended to IT service providers everywhere. So Zach, why don't you get into kind of our overview of both the hardware and also the software agent on CTERA?
All right, perfect. So actually screen recording here. So this is the actual web interface. The CTERA uses a stripped down version of Linux. So the NAS looks like just a plain ordinary NAS that you might buy at Walmart, but what really separates this is the operating system. This is what the physical device actually looks like. So and there's functionality in here. I'm going to be hitting on some of the things that we use. So for instance, the local backups, if we go under the CTERA agents, this is where it lists all the machines that are actually being backed up at that point. And from the download agent, we can see it supports Windows, Linux, and Mac. So it's a good flexibility. I mean, most of our clients use Windows, obviously. A couple use specialty for Linux, but this is one of our clients, CTERA's. So this is the actual server that's getting backed up. We have this set up for doing file level backups and disk level backups. And this happens every day, Monday to Sunday, and we can be flexible on the schedule. We can play with the schedule. If you have like a second or third shift in a manufacturing scenario, we can work with that. But this is the general list with where we list all the clients. Now, the CTERA will support up to 1 server and 20 workstations built in. We can always add more licenses. We have clients that have 3 or 4 servers that run on these, and they all run flawlessly. There's obviously an additional cost to those extra licenses, but 1 server, 20 clients usually fits within our scope of clientele. Here we have our cloud backups. This is where we set it up to go offsite. We use Amazon Web Services for our cloud backups. And if we dig down into here, we can pick and choose what goes offsite. We don't need. So if we have a user that's not necessarily, I don't want to say important, not important, but if the information isn't crucial, we don't need to send that off site. We can pick and choose what data is sent to the cloud because you're paying for cloud storage on a quota system, obviously. So, and then we can obviously dig into the schedule, just, like we can set specific times, we can just do it periodically. The users, we can actually set up users within the CTERA itself. We do have some clients that use the CTERA as a physical file server. We have a smaller company of 4 employees that will actually use QuickBooks on the share from the CTERA, and they just keep everything stored on the CTERA, and then it's getting backed up to the cloud. And we can do permissions. I mean, we can create shares, users. I mean, lots of things. It's a very flexible device from 2 people up to an organization that has 60-some people. Actually, that's That's probably the larger end of what we have with one of these devices is 60-some employees. So we can dig into the sharing, Windows file sharing. We can do FTP. We can also support Apple Share. That's another good one. So if you do have a environment Macs only, you can use that. So digging into the storage portion of this, we're going to go into the arrays section here. So the way we generally set up these CTERAs is it's a 2-bay, so it's 2 drives. We usually set it up as a RAID 1 with either 2 or 4 terabytes based upon what the client needs. Now, what a RAID 1 is, it's just a fancy way of saying that the one drive copies to the other. But we can also stripe those drives so we have a much bigger RAID. But usually our clientele fit within the 4 terabytes. So there's built-in redundancy with the physical device itself. Even if you don't do the cloud backup, there's built-in redundancy on the device itself. Now, this will actually tell us, we had a client this past winter that one of the drives was going bad. It told us about it. We put the drive in, resync the device, and it just took off. So there is that as well, that we get notifications on what we call hard drive degradation over time. You know, hard drives are mechanical. They will eventually fail, but the device lets us know when that's happening. So under the storage portion, again, one of the bigger things is this snapshot feature. So what the snapshots is it takes a snapshot of your data at that point in time and then saves it. Now, depending on how much data you have, we can save 15 to 20 snapshots. I have a bigger client that we use 3 weeks worth. So 5 working days, you know, a week. And then we can kind of modify it to where we want to say we can save last month's backup. We can save 3 weeks worth of data. I mean, we can get really particular. Nobody's really that particular with us. They just want to make sure their stuff's backed up, obviously. So, and then we're going to dig down into the event log. I mean, we can check audit logs. We can see who logged into the server, into the CTERA server itself, log viewer, log settings, alerts. This is where we set up our email alerts. So if a backup doesn't happen, if there is a system error, if the device shuts off and restarts, it can give us a notification. And we generally set those up to where if a backup doesn't work, we're going to get a notification. And then we can take corrective action from there. And then the cloud services, this just tells us that it is connected to the portal and backing up correctly. We also do have remote access to these devices. So as long as there's internet service to the client, we can get it and administrate them and take care of any issues on the back end. We don't actually need to talk to anybody or anything like that. We can be proactive with the backups and the notifications. Firmware network, we generally set this up with an IP address outside of DHCP. It'll tell us our, you know, how long it's been up, if the system has been down for a certain amount of time. We generally set up these CTERAs with a different set of credentials from like administrative credentials or workstation credentials, just because that way we know it's extra protected and someone can't access the device. But this is the general interface. It's very simple and straightforward. I love CTERA. I wish everyone could have one, obviously, because it would make life so much easier from a provider standpoint.
Sure. So from that provider standpoint, which one of these slides or menus shows you like the whole list of all of your clients that you can remote administer all at once?
Oh, so that's our CTERA portal. So if I go to the CTERA portal, we can come in and take a look here. So this is our main menu. So as long as if it's provided through us, we generally will set it up with our portal. So if we go under devices here, it'll actually show the device. It'll show when the last backup occurred, the user or the owner of the device, I'm sorry, and then the name and whether that device is actually online. Unfortunately, protocol 80s next door is offline. I have to reset it.
Well, that's good
But
thing
we
to
can
know.
get, I mean, so this is another thing. It's centralized administration. So every Friday I go through the backups. I'll double check the CTERA backups to make sure that they are online and updating to the cloud accordingly. I'll also check there's the quota. So when we set somebody up, we will give them a quota based upon how much data they have. So we have people that have a 10 gig quota. We've got a client that has 2 terabytes. You're obviously paying for that space, but I'll go in and make sure that you're not going over. If you're getting close to that, we obviously have to buy more space. So this list here just tells us, what the current data is, what the quota is. And we have some clients that are obviously getting close. Like I said, we have 10 all the way up to 2 terabytes.
And I
So
have
it's
to
very
imagine having these centralized administration saves you tons of times and headache, just having one interface to go to and to be able to see all the status of all your
Yes,
clients.
absolutely. That way I don't have to get into every device and look at them, remote in either to a server and then into them. But yes, this on the back end makes life so much easier because we can tell what's going on. Absolutely. This is, like I said, this is one of those things I wish I would have known about 5-6 years ago, especially at my old job, because I was, as a system administrator, I'm just as guilty. I would forget to swap backups. This completely takes the human factor out of backups after the initial setup, and it makes life so much easier. Absolutely.
Cool.
And then we have some other stuff here like local backups. I'll check this to make sure that local agents are running accordingly. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here that doesn't necessarily interest people, but
Sure,
it
yeah,
would
something
be.
we might dig into later on.
Yes. But that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of the CTERA device itself.
All right.
It's a great. I wish I could emphasize how important this device is, but it's really one of those things you just got to kind of get it in and it's set up, and then just leave it. It's one of those, like, it's hard to describe. I mean, everyone who has them loves them. It makes backups and recoveries just so much easier. So
Cool. Any criticisms or drawbacks you can think of? Anything as you're in there every day that room for improvement?
Room for improvement. I really don't have any criticisms about the physical device itself. I have some criticisms of the CTERA tech support. It's one of those deals you can't call. You have to send an email, submit a ticket, and the turnaround's like 24 hours. So that's one of my criticisms is I like talking to someone. Like, I think most people like to talk to someone.
Sure.
But that's the tech support side is probably one of the bigger criticisms, but I also don't contact them that much because I don't have that many issues. So that, and sometimes there is an outage with the cloud services. We haven't really had any lately. There was a couple earlier this year, so I'd come in and all the backups would fail for the cloud backups. But that's, to be expected. Nothing's 100%. That's why we have redundancy. So those two things are the only real criticisms that I have as a whole. So.
All right. Well, thanks for showing us through here. Make sure you subscribe and follow us as we're going to be doing more CTERA related content. I want to thank Zach for sitting down with us today, and yep, make sure you follow for more videos. Thanks for watching.